Alrighty, I'd like to welcome everybody here to our Cannabis Working Group for our Portola District 1 kind of outreach meeting. I'm going to start off with introductions of the Cannabis Working Group. If you'd like to just go down the road here.
Cindy Robinson, District 4.
Kim Scott, District 1.
Kevin Goss, District 2.
Jeff Jingles, District 5, and Debbie Thompson, the commission member from District 5, is down in Monterey. Her mom would help with surgery. She will be here tonight.
Matt Fogarty, District 2.
And also here tonight we have our City Council for Portola. We have Mayor Pat Morton, Mayor Pro Tem Tom Cooley, Council members Bill Powers and Phil Oles, our City Manager Bob Beecher. It's kind of cutting out on me, so. And our Sheriff Greg Hagwood, also support staff Craig Settlemeyer, County Council is not here. Tim Gibson, I'm not sure if he's here or not, I haven't seen him. He's our Ag Commissioner. And then Randy Wilson right over here is our Planning Director for the county. So roll call is basically taken. I'm going to have you all stand and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll just kind of lay it out real quick. We're going to have a presentation here by county staff kind of going over the ordinance procedures and kind of what the ordinance is about and what we're going to need to do, you know, what this is all about and how we're outreaching to the community and the different state and local agencies that will be involved. So we'll have him, Randy Wilson take care of that. And then we'll get into the public comment portion of the evening after that. So take it away, Randy.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm going to try to talk into this mic. So again, everybody, I'm Randy Wilson. I'm the Plumas County Planning Director. And these are public input meetings. The Cannabis Working Group has been through many public meetings in Quincy, developing a draft ordinance, and you'll find copies of it in the back. You'll find a zoning matrix that kind of lays it all out. You'll find a little sheet on permitting processes, such as a special use permit, and a little cheat sheet on the ordinance itself. So an overview of what I'm going to talk about tonight, the cannabis ordinance development process, cannabis-related issues, new state regulations, the MRSA, originally the Medical Cannabis and Regulation Act, actually has changed names several times, and Prop 64, the Adult Recreational Act. And right now, the state of California has combined both of them into a new law, several hundred pages long, and they've renamed it, and I'm not even going to try the acronym. And I'm going to be honest with you, the state keeps changing the rules of the game as we go along in this process. I'm going to talk a little bit about the state agencies that will be regulating cannabis activities, a bit of an overview of the draft cannabis ordinance, and some key discussion points. Some of you might be able not to see this, but so Cannabis Working Group was appointed by the Board of Supervisors. These people applied and the board considered them and appointed them. This Cannabis Working Group has worked to develop the draft ordinance you can find on the table in the back. These are public outreach and comment meetings. This is the fourth one. We've done them in Chester, Greenville, Gray Eagle, and tonight we're in Portola. 2 weeks from Thursday we'll be in Quincy. One of the things I want to say is the state's setting the system up where if the county so chooses to have a permitting process, there's a need to get a local permit before you can get a state permit. So we have a lot of control in that. One thing I want to make a comment on is we don't want the state to trump us and be issuing the permits. The Cannabis Working Group will be making revisions based on public input. And again, this is the 4th meeting. I know some people don't want to speak at meetings like this, so written comments to either the planning staff in Quincy or to your local supervisors, they'll get us to it. In the end, these people will look at all the comments they've received over these 5 meetings and consider revisions. I want to emphasize revisions. This whole process is being set up for change, and a lot of public input. The Planning Commission will then make recommendations to the Plumas County Planning Commission. Again, there's another set of there's another hearing, more public input, and ultimately the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors will then approve a draft cannabis ordinance for CEQA review. So what we're really working on is the project description for the California Environmental Quality Act review, which we were required to do under California law. With that CEQA review, there could be, again, possible changes that have come out of it. Some significant impact is identified. What that does is then create a mitigation measure within the draft ordinance. One thing I really want to talk about a little bit is that staff is recommending that cannabis activities be taxed at the local level and that a general tax measure be passed by the voters. So probably, we don't know how that'll all work out, but what may happen here is the board may say, after CEQA review, we like the ordinance, we want to pass it, subject to a successful general tax measure. And we're working on what that may be. So I'm going to say it, no tax measure, no ordinance. This is a general review of this process. Again, public hearings will be held by both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. The meetings that these people do in Quincy is also public meetings for input. Changes to the draft ordinance are always possible. So what you're looking at tonight is the beginnings. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be what we end up with. You can't really read it because we put it in red and we put it in white for the next meeting. The Board of Supervisors has authorized the development of a cannabis ordinance, but is not bound to approve such an ordinance if the board so chooses. So just because the board has sanctioned a cannabis working group and we're going through all this process, if at the end the board doesn't like it, the board doesn't have to approve it. So by authorizing it doesn't mean they have to approve it. The board held 2 public hearings regarding put a moratorium in place last year. Both of those hearings were held in Quincy. Both of those hearings had over 100 people, I believe. And the board at that time did not choose to put a moratorium on cannabis activities until an ordinance is adopted. Cannabis-related issues. Cannabis cultivation has been illegal and is not regulated in the past by either the state or Plumas County. Now we have Prop 215 and there's some medical issues, but it's never really been regulated, it's never been taxed by the state. Now it's going to be the commercial side. Cannabis grows have been hidden in remote locations. We have fires. I heard yesterday that the fire up in Modoc County, the Forest Service ran into a big cannabis grow. There's been a lot of environmental degradation around cannabis. In this county, and I will show you the county GIS map, we're about, I'm going to say 81, 82%, about 80% public land, federal land. So we're about 20% private land in this county. I know every year the Sheriff's Department and the Forest Service eradicates a number of grows. I don't know how many this year. An early number I heard is they already found 40 in Montgomery. And I think they're continuing to find them. I'm seeing a little nod from Greg, who I respect for being here because I know he's been through a lot the last couple of days with the emergency issues in Quincy due to the fire. Right now, there are cartels and violence that go along with this, and even the legal could have violence. It's probably one of the most valuable agricultural crops that can be grown today in the state. There are no permitted cannabis dispensaries in Plumas County, no permitted cannabis manufacturing operations in Plumas County, and then neighborhood compatibility issues with cultivation and cannabis-related activities. I want to emphasize the compatibility. This cannabis ordinance is based on zoning, and one of the big issues in zoning, and Becky Horan, the senior planner, and Tim Evans, the new assistant planner, we deal with compatibility issues every day. You'd be amazed how people don't get along with their neighbors. So I want to stress that this ordinance, we're trying to address compatibility issues. New state regulations, medical in 64, the medical cannabis passed by the state, regulations for cultivation, medical dispensing, manufacturing. Proposition was passed by voters in November, regulates recreational cannabis, dispensing, manufacturing, and bringing what the state right now is trying to bring under their new legislation, both medical cannabis and Prop 64 together. In Plumas County, Prop 64 passed by 51%. Both laws regulate cannabis. Under both laws, local permits and licenses are required in order to obtain a state license. With the nuisance, if we don't have an ordinance, we could be letting the state control us, and we don't want that to happen. State agencies involved in regulating cannabis, the Department of Fish and Wildlife will be heavily involved. The Regional Water Quality Control Board, I've been looking at draft waste discharge requirements from our region for about a year. One of the issues is they say no cannabis in wetlands. Other standards, the water quality boards look at water quality. Right now, the overall state water quality board is looking at their draft cannabis waste discharge. So whoever gets a permit also will have to deal with these state agencies. The Department of Public Health will be looking at the manufacturing side, and they'll be issuing the permits. The Department of Food and Ag will be issuing the cultivation permits from the state. The Bureau of Cannabis Control, that's the new name after the recent state regulations. Their original acronym was BUMMER, Bureau of Medical Marijuana. And one thing in this county that really comes to play, and Becky and I dealt with this yesterday, is the Department of Forestry, CAL FIRE, will issue forest clearing permits. And they have two that I know of, a less than 3 acre conversion and a full timber harvest plan. And what we said we would not sign off on yesterday was a less than 3 acre conversion where they were removing trees to grow cannabis. We said we couldn't sign it because we don't have an ordinance. But they will play a major role in this operation in Plumas County. If people need to cut down trees to open up the sunlight, you have to deal with CAL FIRE. So in a way, we have several other state regulatory agencies that will be doing enforcement, not just us. All of these agencies will issue permits at some times and have fees, so this is not going to be a cheap endeavor for those who get fees. Several Plumas County departments may be involved should we have a local ordinance for local permitting. That would be planning, building for structures, environmental health, and quite possibly the Ag Commissioner. There is, at least in the previous versions of the laws that I've read, an opportunity for the Department of Food and Ag to contract with the local Ag Commissioner, and he would issue and enforce the state permits. I think that would have to be a mutual agreement. So at this point, give me a little bit of time, and I've got the Plumas County zoning map, and I'm going to switch programs. And in order to do that, we've got to turn things on and turn it off. So, still good. Sorry, PowerPoint can be a little faint. So, this is the county GIS. If I had internet, I don't know if I could get it in this building. We have a version of this on the county website, PlumasCounty.com. There's two important buttons on that home page. On the left side of the home page, it says Cannabis Working Group. If you push that button, it will take you to a page where we're loading up and we're recording these meetings, and they'll be placed in that area. And you can look at a YouTube video of this meeting at a future time. Also, on the right side of that home page, there's something that calls maps. If you press on that, that will take you to the online GIS maps that we've been loading on over the last couple of years. So this is the full-blown ArcGIS, and I have all the zoning on. So I'm going to play with this just a little bit, and I'm trying to do this all over the county. So I'm going to turn the zoning off, and what you see, the green lines are the state highways. And so you have 89, you have a couple of county roads. And then in that, you'll see some blue areas. There's the town or city of Portola, which is not involved in the county ordinance. The county has no jurisdiction in the city of Portola. So we have a white area on our GIS because we don't enforce any zoning in the city. Outside the city of Portola, and I guess I can try to zoom in a little bit. And when we updated the general plan a few years ago, we created what we called towns, master plan communities, rural places, those sorts of things. Those were really reflective of what already existed in Plumas County. So we did create a new town of Delaker. There is also a new town of Gray Eagle, which includes Plumas Eureka. Way up north, we put a town boundary around Quincy. I can't remember if we put one around East Quincy, but we probably included the whole thing. We put a town boundary around Greenville. We also put a town boundary around Chester, and then the Almanor Peninsula, Hamilton Branch area. So this area of the county, we have the city of Portola, and then we have the town of Delaker, and that plays out in general plan policies, and it could play out in this effort. We're still looking at the legal issues of whether one of our county towns could say no to commercial cannabis, and yet other county towns could say yes, and we're looking at that legal question. Here we have Gold Mountain, which is the master plan community. Sea Road, you can see a little bit of Gray Eagle here. This is Clio. These are rural places. You also see these hatched lines here. This dotted line around the city of Portola is, I think, what we call the sphere influence. There are general plan policies in the general plan that have us coordinating with the city of Portola, particularly in that area. So you also have Beckworth going out. We have another, really a rural place in Chilton. So this is a part of the GIS presentation. Bear with me, and I'm going to zoom out. So let's talk a little bit about one of the constraints that's going to come to play. Remember that the Water Quality Control Board is going to have to okay any state permit. And one of their big issues is wetlands. And so this is not absolute, so I don't want anybody to think it is. What this is, the green up here, is the National Wetlands Inventory. And I call it the first indicator of potential wetlands. I do not call it absolute. Wetlands is defined by hydritic soils, hydritic plants. It actually takes a very qualified person to identify them. But you can see in these areas, in particular the Sierra Valley, there are these identified on the National Wetlands Inventory, and I want to make sure that that's not absolute wetlands, what they've indicated as wetlands. So that would be a constraint that we can play. This one's a little bit more complicated to bring up, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to bring up the FEMA floodplain. As you can see, and by the way, as I look at this, and I'm going to turn off the wetlands. so it stands out. That hatched area is what we have identified by FEMA as the 100-year floodplain. I will let everybody know that there is an effort to redo the floodplain in the Sierra Valley. We've seen some draft maps a couple of years ago. I think that effort got weighed down, but that whole, you can see how Sierra Valley has the potential to be a flood area. And that floodplain then goes along the river and down. So turning that off, what I'm trying to do is give you kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on with planning and zoning and other issues. I'm going to turn on the zoning. So the really lime green area, those areas on our general plan are zoned ag preserve. And the light green areas you're seeing are zoned general forest, and for the most part they probably represent federal lands. Even though we don't have jurisdiction, we still have zones on them. Doesn't really mean that much. We call it general forest. There is private forest land in general forest, so you can't really separate out, looking at those colors, what's the feds and what is not. But generally, the general forest would be federal lands. We don't, in this area of the county, have any timber reserve lands. You'll see a little bit here, if you look at this cursor, outside of Portola. This proposal says no cannabis on private timberlands, and we do have a lot, depending on what area of the county, we have a lot of private timberlands. So that'll give you kind of an idea, and I turned this on you earlier, and I looked at the city sphere of influence, and see ag preserve within that city sphere of influence. That's something that we may have to deal with. So there you have the Plumas County zoning for this area. If I haven't gone through it enough, I'm trying to show you an overall. Please, the county website has most of this information on it. I don't think it has the wetlands. So in this area of the county, the really residential area is Delicate. We have rural residential in some portions up above Portola. That's the yellow. The other, there's some R20 and R10, but we have a whole lot of ag preserve, and this is one of the biggest ag producing areas in the county. One of the things I do need to bring into this, and I don't have an area boundary, is the area of the Sierra Valley Groundwater Management District. And they're working on stuff related to the recent passage of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And that could come to play because I know right now they're considering a high volume well ordinance. They considered it a few weeks ago. I was at that meeting. They kind of had to do a reset, but not a serious one. Somebody generally in this area here, and this is not the absolute boundary of that ordinance.